January 19th, regular monthly meeting. Testing, testing.
Tip it into a truck like that so you get the over, dump it right over here. You know? That's it. I'll bring it up if you want, but I don't even have to bring it up. I won't bring it up. Good. Yeah, good. Just let me know, and just let me know if you need money or whatever. Okay? I know I gave Michael a donation. I don't know if you knew that or not. I gave him several $100s. So, yeah.
I know you tried to call me, I just...
No, it was not. All right. I'll call this meeting to order at 7:04 PM. Adequate notice of this meeting has been given to the Express Times and Star Gazette, satisfying the requirements of the Open Public Meeting Act. If we could please stand for a silent prayer and flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Minutes. Wanda, we have to take these separately.
Councilman Babinski has to abstain from the October 6th, and everybody can vote on January 5th.
All right, I'll move the October 6th, 2015 meetings.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. You're abstaining. Slack?
Yes.
Van Loo? Vangelli?
Yes.
Mayor Kern?
Yes. Approval of the minutes of the January 5th meeting. Do I have a motion for those?
Second.
Babinski?
Yes.
Slack?
Yes.
Van Loo? Vangelli?
Yes.
Yes. Do I have a motion to pay the bills presented in proper form, signed by the director of each department, and approved by the majority of the members listed on the bill list?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Okay, Babinski?
Yes.
Slack?
Yes.
Van Loo? Yes. Vangelli?
Yes.
Kern?
Yes. Public comment on agenda items, or any public comment on any agenda items this evening?
Good evening. Of course, I have questions about what is on the agenda, since I don't know what it all means. What is the grant that you're applying for?
Is that all the questions, Judy, or you want to just ask them all and then we'll...
Okay. What is the ordinance to exceed the municipal budget? How are you amending the exemption determinations? Because you don't discuss any of this tonight.
For first reading, yes, that's correct.
So I would like to know what they are. I will believe now that there are no second readings, since there wasn't
Yes,
any.
no second,
last
that's
time.
correct.
You're going to execute the application and contract for funding from the South Warren Municipal Alliance. I don't know what that means. I know what the lock doctor means. Will you be going into an executive session?
Well, for the South Warren Municipal Alliance, that primarily, it's a fund that all the municipalities surrounding in South Warren County apply for, and the monies primarily go to, I think, the DARE fund that we receive. So we'll be getting that we get that every year. The cap bank is a statutorial ordinance that we pass every year that gives us the ability to exceed the 2% cap that was imposed by the legislature, the cap bank, which we have some bank allocated for not going up over the 2%. 16-02, Kevin, I don't know if you'd like to explain that a little bit further about the Highlands.
Sure, Mrs. Forrest, we adopted, basically, it was always a generic understanding that municipalities could make their own Highlands exemption determinations for certain statutory exemptions. Then that was codified in a memorandum of understanding between the Highlands Council and the DEP that in fact local municipalities could make about 5 or 6 different determinations. But when they had that memorandum of understanding, they developed a master ordinance, not a master, a specimen ordinance that they circulated to all townships. We got that. I took their specimen, modified it slightly, basically just to eliminate the definitional sections because it goes on for about 6 pages. And we introduced and adopted the ordinance that I drafted, which actually they had reviewed and approved previously in Franklin Township, where I also represent. Now, apparently, they're not happy with the fact that the definitional section's been removed. I simply expedited that section and said everything in this ordinance means what the statute means. And I think that's perfectly acceptable. Now, the Highlands Council doesn't like that anymore. So in order for us to issue local exemptions for certain exceptions, by way of example, you're in the Highlands Preservation Area and you want to put on a deck to a pre-existing house, it actually requires an exemption. If we don't adopt the ordinance, you have to go to DEP to get that exemption. So rather than fight with the Highlands Council about the fact that I think the ordinance is perfectly competent that we already adopted and the fact that they've already approved the same form before, I simply put the definitional section back in and we're going to re-adopt the ordinance, presumably. We have the votes.
And where do you find this, on the website?
It will be after the first reading. We'll get it up there.
What about the one that Kevin is saying?
That's already adopted.
Where is that?
Copy of that.
That's on the website?
It hasn't been posted on the website because the general code hasn't updated it yet. I can email it to you if that's not a problem.
Okay, because I don't think I really understand, because I know whenever I had a deck, I had to go to DEP, so,
Yeah, well, that's the point. There are, I believe there's 27 statutory exemptions. Most of them, you do have to go to the DEP for, Judy. There's about half dozen round numbers that a local municipality has because they basically go to grandfathering issues. If you owned your property prior to the implementation of Highlands, those types of things. But even those 5 or 6, we can't do locally. It's really an ordinance designed to help residents not have to go to DEP for every single little thing. And I think it makes sense. And from my perspective, rather than fight with the Highlands over the form that we adopted, I just feel it's easier just to re-adopt it.
and you're saying this is the Highlands Council, not the commission?
The
Highlands Council,
The
yeah.
Highlands Council, that's who we're talking about.
Okay.
They implement the Highlands.
Coalition?
The council, the
Council?
governing body. Yeah, oh, okay.
Okay, so it's not a commission, okay.
No,
Okay.
Highlands
And
Council.
now, I finally dawned on me, because I thought I couldn't know about old business or new business or correspondence, but it is on the agenda. So do you have any old business?
It may be discussed this evening.
And you don't know what might be discussed?
No, it's whenever council starts talking, it could come up.
Okay, and what about new business?
Whatever comes up at the
So
meeting.
that's basically new businesses, if all of a sudden somebody thinks of something that they didn't ask wanted to put on the agenda, it's considered new business, it's just a spur of the moment idea? Is that
Yeah.
what defines
Mhm.
new business? Okay, and any correspondence to read?
None that, they could come up in discussion.
Okay, but previously, you have known prior to the meeting, issues that you were going to bring up that you did not put on the agenda. So I'm asking you, are there items that you know you're going to be discussing that are not on the agenda? I have asked that question previously.
Potentially, the agenda can always change, and it's so that if a governing body member comes up with something, that we're able to take action on it and not wait another 2 weeks to a month to solve problems. If a resident comes up and has a problem during public comment, discussion and action can be taken, so.
That wasn't the situation. You knew about things. It wasn't one of the things you were talking about, and you did not put it on the agenda. So I'm just asking you, are there items that you know about that will be discussed that are not written on the agenda? I will be asking you that every meeting, so.
Not this evening, not that I'm aware of.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other public comment on agenda items? Seeing none, we will go into the attorney's report.
Mayor, well, I already discussed the ordinance, and I think in responding to Mrs. Forbes' questions about the agenda, I think I've explained why we're doing what we're doing. As I said, we adopted this, I think, at least in October, November. It took the Highlands Council a couple of months to bother reviewing it. Because I cut out the definitional section, so, of their model ordinance. I guess their model is now mandatory. So I think rather than fight with them about it, I think we should just readopt it. Basically, the ordinance will read exactly the way it reads as it was previously implemented, and it'll be expanded to include the definitions. I didn't feel the definitions were necessary because they're all right out of the statute. So the way we adopted the ordinance, it simply said everything in this ordinance, every term means the same as it does in the statute. I thought it saved several pages of killing trees, but the Highlands Council doesn't like it. That same version had been previously approved in Franklin, and I did it, but I guess they don't like it anymore, so.
So would that mean, like, for example, somebody just putting on a deck would still have to go to DEP?
If we don't revise the ordinance, that would be the case, yes, Mayor, which is why I'm saying I think we should.
But are we
take that.
revising the ordinance?
We're just, yes, we're readopting it.
Okay, I just want to double check.
Yes, we're going to readopt it as long as you guys agree, and I think you should. It's really, this ordinance helps the citizens. We're trying to cut through red tape and not send you to DEP when we don't have to.
And if we don't adopt this, the residents couldn't get flood insurance, for example.
It's not a flood insurance issue, but what happens is, again, like to take the deck example, you would have to file your application for a HAD, a Highlands Applicability Determination, with DEP and wait for them to get back to you. And the thing is, there's no statutory or regulatory timeframe for how long they have to get back to you. Whereas if we adopt this ordinance, and this applies, to anybody in the preservation and planning area, somebody comes in for a deck, our township engineer can review it promptly, get it back to them, and they can keep moving. But the Highlands Council needs to approve the ordinance we adopt, so I'll take the blame for that. I don't know why they don't like it, this version, but I would suggest we readopt it. It helps the taxpayers in the bottom line. Beyond that, the other, major thing going on very early this year, as I keep repeating, is getting our housing element and fair share plan updated. I spoke at length with Susan Gruhl. We now have the final numbers for the consult, so I know Susan was coming to the land use board meeting, I think, to outline those numbers. Those numbers are public knowledge at this point because they've been, the report's been filed with the court. The consult number is I think, something we can work with. It's a little bit higher than the number that came out of the of COA from the growth share formula, but it's not dramatically higher. I think Susan feels pretty comfortable with it. So the process going forward will be, she'll put that number into a housing element fair share plan. It has to start with the land use board. It's up to you guys in the land use board whether you want to have, a joint meeting at some point just to maybe review the thing. You probably should do that because ultimately the land use board adopts the housing element and fair share plan. And it has to come here, we need to approve it, and it needs to get into the court by our approved.
Well, I think we had already established a subcommittee, so I think it was myself and Councilman Babinski, Metzger, a few other people, so I think.
So I would
I
get
don't think
together
we-
with the subcommittee,
yeah.
get the basics of the plan down to where you want them. And speaking with Susan, she did tell me she feels there's a few errors with the Highlands build-out analysis, so she's asked them to correct that. So the number we may push for a slightly different number even than in the consult report. But I think she feels, I think I agree with her. I think the township's in pretty good shape if that's the number we end up with. And I say that if, because of course the Fair Share Housing Center, which is basically the public advocate, has a completely different number. I have a case management conference on January 28th or 29th. Of course, I'll be there with 40 other attorneys, because every municipality that Judge Miller has jurisdiction over, which is quite a few, has to be down there on that date, and he's going to kind of give us a heads up as to how he wants to move forward. And the questions are basically this. As you guys are all aware, almost every municipality in the state joined in that joint municipal defense agreement to utilize eConsult. So we all are relying upon eConsult for our number. Fair Share Housing Center has their own expert, and it's developed its own number. So one of the questions is there going to be some type of master trial or mini trial with the experts? Because it doesn't make sense for everybody to have a fair share trial over whose number is right, because it's really a formula. Is the consult formula for the way they got their number correct, or does the court feel the Fair Share Housing Center's expert and their dramatically higher number, whether their calculation is correct, or does he pick and choose some different components? To me, that would be best adjudicated in one consolidated trial, so that the judge's ruling applies to everybody, uniformly to everybody. But I won't know that or be able to give you guys a heads up as to where that's going until we have that case management conference with Judge Miller. And the interesting thing is, frankly, I personally think that should be up at the Supreme Court, the Appellate Division, because if Judge Miller doesn't have every municipality. Judge Hansborough has some. There's about 17 different judges out there. Well, what happens if you get 17 judges?
Going to agree.
Right.
Someone's going to appeal it.
Everybody has a
It's gonna
different interpretation.
Yeah.
It's going to go up anyway.
Kevin, you're going to be talking about this for the next.
Yeah. So I'm
What's going to happen?
I'm basically done, but I just wanted to kind of keep you guys in the loop. I think from our perspective, we just keep working with the number we have and let the chips fall where they may, and we'll deal with things as we deal with them, okay? So, but I just want to let you know that, I have been coordinating with Susan. I always keep, obviously, Tony's Pizarro, land use board attorney in the booth and so on and so forth. So, it's a combined effort. We'll need the land use board there, and that's basically all that's going on here at the start of the year. Not that it's not important, but that's about it.
Okay, one more thing for you, Kevin. I know on Thursday you have a little conference with, I guess, Dave and Donnie about verbiage. I didn't, if I can.
Yes,
Yeah.
no, in fact, I want to get you copies of the contract.
Because I know the contract's ratified already, and that was back in August. And by rights, they should have their raises and everything, and they haven't gotten them yet.
Yeah,
Just over a couple.
I talked to
couple
Don.
words,
That's what I said. I actually sent to Don, I talked to Don on the phone, and it was my suggestion to Don, let's just meet and get any last language straightened out and get the darn thing signed. They want it done, I want it done.
I mean, it was approved anyway, it's ratified by the town.
Yeah, it's just a question of the format, Steve, so I'll get it to you. I sent copies to Don of all the changes that were made so they could kind of track them. I'll get you all those versions. Let's have a quick meeting.
The longer it takes, it's going to cost the town more and more money. It just keeps dragging on and dragging on.
And
Yeah.
is it possible to get a full copy of the
Sorry, I
contract?
was-
Not just one page with some changes on it?
I know,
I
Mary,
would like
do you
to
want
see
me to
that.
mail you copy? I know sometimes your email doesn't open well. I'll send you a hard copy.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Because I would just like to.
Yeah.
read through
Oh,
it.
absolutely, because
I'm
we
just getting sued for
you have to finally approve the final form. Dave and Frank negotiated the terms generically speaking, and they've been agreed upon for, as Steve said, several months.
Yeah, but it's like one page.
Well, it's just
and
getting them
of
into
these
the
things,
same
and let's
document.
Put them in where they need to be.
Right.
Exactly.
So we're going to have a meeting. Yes, Steve, I will definitely get you all the backup
All right.
documentation. Let's get it resolved. That's it.
All right, we can move right into town council reports. Yep, sir.
Well, I have a DPW report, which goes as follows. This, I guess what they've done since in the last couple of weeks. They hauled and placed gabion stone on road edges in various locations on Still Valley Road. They were checked called to check the sewer main at 213 March Boulevard for possible sewer backups. They checked the flow in the main. There was no problems with the township's sewer mains. They serviced trucks number 10 and the John Deere 444 wheel loader. They crack sealed various roadways in Parkside and Huntington areas, also Vangeli Park parking lot. They cleaned leaves and debris from drain pipes on various county roadways in the township. They placed the delineators marking drains, road edges, and head walls for snow plowing, which we might have to do this weekend. Cleaned and disposed of brush and debris at 106 St. James Avenue. This was in reference to a zoning violation that the resident had refused to clean up. They salted the township roadways in various times throughout the month, which was actually 112, 113, 117, and 118, and then they repaired the salt trucks after salting the roadways. I'm going to get into something real quick. They were requested to use the chipper up at the Scheimer Mansion, and I think I helped Ingrid find somebody that'll do it at a very, very fair price, because I have issues with the township actually going up and chipping on it's private property, even though they're a foundation, nonprofit. It's still private property, and that just we can't use township, to chip private property. But I think we get that all straight. Is that okay, Ingrid? We got it all straightened out. So Donnie, you won't be getting any more phone calls. That's it.
Excellent. All right, before you go, actually, we have our new fire chief here, so Chief, if you'd just like to come up and introduce yourself real quick.
Mayor, I am Dave Supon, fire chief, just started January 1st. I live in Scheimer Manor on Pershing Avenue. I have started my 16th year with the department. I had 10 years prior in Alpha Fire Department. I'd like to start out by saying I look forward to working with all of you. What I have in my hand is something that I think fell to the wayside in the past few chiefs. We used to always give a report for the month of what type of calls and stuff that we went to the month prior. I'd like to start getting back into that. I will say that due to our reporting system, it will always be for the second meeting, if that's all right.
Yeah, that's fine.
We don't often get our reports in until like the 10th or 12th for the state, so I won't be able to have a complete report. My understanding, Mr. Slack, you're in charge of us.
Correct.
I'll get a copy of this to you before the meeting so you can look at it ahead of time, but this will just cover for December. We answered 15 fire calls ranging from accidents to alarm activations, smoke and odor investigations, and total 95.34 man-hours. We just briefly touched on the snow that's in the forecast. Whether we get an inch or 2 feet, it's all over the place right now. I just recently posted today on our Facebook page, this is from the NFPA website, which is the National Fire Protection Association. It's a little article, and it basically goes into the idea of adopt a hydrant. I put it out there for the public. I was hoping that we could possibly get it on the Cohasset Township website. Will I be able to give that to you, Mayor?
Yeah, absolutely.
Basically, adopt a hydrant is if you have a hydrant on your property, we're requesting that you take care of it by shoveling it out at least 2 feet below the fittings and at least 2 feet around it, so that if we have a call, we don't have to go looking for it. We do have markers on almost all of our hydrants, but B, it's a lot quicker for us to hook up to something that's already dug out and not frozen. And we could really run into some problems, especially with these temperatures, hydrants frozen up. So, I'm looking to in the future, I don't know if we'll get to it before winter's out, but I was talking with our department about sending letters to those residents that have them on their property and just asking them if they can take care of it. We always put a crew together of usually 8 to 10 guys if that's a good day. But even with that group, every little bit helps, and like I said, look forward to working with you guys. Also with me tonight is Kenny Buckles. He's our assistant chief, so if I happen to be working or tied up, he'll be next in charge.
Excellent.
What about, Dave, what about, an iron rod going up from each hydrant?
We have markers already. Not all of them. I have the markers, we ordered them a while back. As Aqua has replaced a few hydrants on us, they have thrown away our markers. I've since contacted workers at Aqua that I already personally know and asked them to make note in Cohacton that they don't just throw them out because they are expensive. What they are is they're white and red fiberglass rods, and the red is reflective so that they glow at night when your headlights hit them, and they're on a spring. And we actually had a couple scrappers, I guess, took them apart to scrap the spring on a couple of them, so we have to replace them. But we already do have markers. We just have, I think I counted 8 to 10 of them. I have to put them back on, whether they were either stolen, broken, or replaced by Aqua. So we do have markers. Any other questions?
Hey, Chief, I was in Belvedere last night, and I think they're thinking about using that same Texas co-op that we utilized to get you guys your recent Pierce truck. And they had some questions about, how you guys felt about the truck, whether you were happy with it and everything. I was just wondering if it was okay. I'd get your contact information, put you in touch with their volunteer chief, or whoever it is over there.
We actually have a chief's meeting this Thursday.
Oh, there you go.
Okay. Well, then maybe you'll see them there, because I think they had some questions, like on the state bid, the Pierce truck they were looking at has like a little bit different serial or part numbers than like the co-op numbers, and I told them, I said I thought my general understanding was you guys were real happy with that piece of equipment.
We are,
But,
both of them, yeah.
So, okay, if you're having a chiefs meeting, maybe you can find the Belvedere guy then.
Yeah, I can reach out to them.
Okay.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Chief. We look forward to working with you, too. So thank you very much.
One other thing, you did a nice job on that pad.
Oh, thank you. They needed it.
Did a real nice job.
Been there since long before I joined, so it was due. And with the weight of the trucks nowadays, it just started to collapse the pavement, so that was the way to go.
It looks nice.
I'm glad you like it.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Go right into the next. Slack.
All right, I'll give the police department report from December 15th to January 18th. The department responded to 415 calls for service in that time. The police department issued 142 traffic summonses and made 23 arrests. The criminal investigation unit opened 25 new cases. The police department investigated 29 motor vehicle crashes. The department continued their tradition of recognizing a family in need during the holidays. Upon a recommendation from the Cohacton School, officers donated $650 to a deserving family in Cohacton to help pay for Christmas gifts for their children. The gifts were delivered to their door. The department is in its final stages of switching from the Cody RMS system to the new InfoShare system. The new system is utilized by most New Jersey police departments, which allows us to share a lot more information. The system has more capabilities and is much cheaper than the current system in use. We anticipate to be up and running early February. And all the yearly administration switchovers have been completed, and the department looks forward to a successful 2016. Is there anything else you'd like to add to that, Chief? That would be my report, Mayor. Our Environmental Commission has not met since our last council meeting. Again, our meetings have been moved to the first Monday now in the upcoming year, not the third Monday like they were.
Excellent. Thank you, Dave. Mary?
Okay. I missed giving my police report. That made life very easy. But I asked the clerk to just give me a little bit of info about the things maybe that have happened so far. And things like, she has issued one marriage license and has,
Sorry, I'm just, I don't have a good opinion of that.
and has processed 10 Oprah requests, in addition to all the other things that go on in her office. Our CFO is working on closing the books because the auditor will be coming in to start making sure that we're doing everything legally. And this is the month for dog licenses, so people have been coming in and mailing in, and of course we did have, 55 shots were given at our rabies clinic at the beginning of January. Actually, I was surprised, because we have had like as many as like 200, and to only have 55 when the weather wasn't bad surprised me. I don't know if it was because of the hour that it got changed from the afternoon to the morning. People forgot. I don't know. But it is as it is, and they can go to other municipalities if they need to get a rabies shot. The Economic Development Commission met, and unfortunately I don't have my minutes in front of me. Refresh my mind, please, Ingrid. Like, what did we, at our last meeting? We talked about the mall, we talked about Cohat Plaza, and
Well, the county just had,
yes, and we had sent a couple people actually to the county program.
yeah, I think you'd be one of them, yeah.
Mhm. And, what else did we do? That's right, and we just kept it to 3. Yes, and actually letting the land use board know we exist, because when they get things that come before them that pertain to economic development in some way, shape, or form with a business, then actually it should come to the commission so they can take a look at it too. And I guess that's pretty much it. We finally got a mailbox. That makes us giggle.
Very good, thank you, Mary. Sal?
I'll just bring up one thing. We got this letter on St. James Lutheran Church.
Yes.
I am totally in favor, and I would like to see Wanda write the state a letter that the township committee is in favor of making St. James Lutheran Church for a historic site.
I agree with that.
There is a state review board meeting on March 10th down in South that
Or a letter.
well, we can still do a letter, but if, with my Alzheimer's, I can remember, I would like to be down there to see that, or to hear it, or whatever. So we can do a letter.
Yeah.
The letter's great, but also I want to give them physical
We'll
support.
take a vote on that then.
I don't think we need to do it.
Do we?
To what, memorialize supporting
To
it?
vote, yeah.
Yeah, we can. I think that's it.
Okay.
Yeah. We can do a vote on that, so, yeah, well, there's your new business. Yeah, that's perfect.
That's on March 10th.
Oh,
Mary, the meeting, the public review board is on March 10th.
Right. At 10 o'clock in the morning.
And you know what?
You even have to get up in the morning.
I will bring that up at the historic commission meeting and see if they have anyone going down too, Sal, okay? From out of our commission.
Well, let's have the township committee in favor.
Yep.
Or not in favor.
We're gonna do that with motions, okay?
Right on.
Anything else, Sal?
That's my big thing, tonight. Too cold to talk about the little things. But, it's certainly a gem in the township, St. James.
Yes.
Lutheran Church.
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you, Sal. Resolutions. Does anyone have an issue taking these 3 together?
I move that we approve all 3 resolutions.
I'll second that.
Okay,
Okay, Kibinski?
Yes.
Slack?
Yes.
Van Loo?
Yes.
Vangelis?
Yes.
Kern?
Yes. The two ordinances, anyone have any issue taking those two together? Is there a motion? Okay.
Second.
Okay, Babinski?
Yes.
Slack?
Yes.
Van Loo?
Yes.
Vangelis?
Yes.
Yes. Motions,
Now, February, what, which meeting February will we be doing second reading?
February 2nd.
Okay.
okay. And motions, we'd like to add on there, a motion to support the designation of the St. James Church on the historic registry. Does anyone have an issue taking the three motions together?
No, I move it.
Second.
Okay, Babinski?
Yes.
Slack?
Yes.
Van Loo?
Yes.
Vangelis?
Yes.
Kern?
Yes. Public comment, is there any general public comment? Yes.
Enrique Hernandez, 301 River Road. I have some questions about the comments that Kevin made, so I'd rather that he listen to my question when he returns.
I apologize, sir.
Thanks. Kevin, I was listening to your comments about the Highlands exemptions, and I looked them up quickly. There's 17 exemptions. I was wondering if the policy will be now that every activity covered by each one of those exemptions will require a Highlands applicability determination letter.
Well, no, the ordinance that we're adopting only applies to, like I said, I think 6 of those exceptions. I think there's actually more than 17, although maybe they've codified them and reduced them down. But some of those exemptions will always have to go to the majority will always have to go to the DEP. And some of those exemptions, are pretty complicated. But we're going to be able to deal with the basic ones. Like, by example, one of the exemptions is if you owned your property prior to the 2004 adoption of the Highlands legislation, you're not constrained by the building envelope requirements. So, and so if you come in with a deck, we can make that exemption determination of, you own the property in 1995, not an issue, and we can do that at the local level. But we can't do it at all, as I think you're familiar with, until the Highlands Council has approved our local ordinance, and then they actually, what they do, Doctor, is they will give us a form.
I understand that, but I'm sorry to interrupt you, I apologize, but that's not exactly what I'm asking.
Sorry,
Right. What I'm asking is, it appears from your comments that all of the activities that you described will require a HAD letter. Whether that HAD letter comes from the township or the DEP is a separate matter. I understand. So then, I looked it up and it said it includes a shed. So anybody that wants to put a shed, even if they meet zoning requirements, will have to get a HAD letter. Is that correct?
Off the top of my head, I don't know, whether accessory structures like that would apply to that.
It's in the same paragraph that includes decks, garage, shed, porch, deck, patio, because the reason I'm asking this is because these are the kind of minutia rules that have not been enforced until right now, because I've sat through years of land use board meetings, through discussions with zoning officers, and people would show up with a plan, they say, hey, I conform to zoning. Yes, you do, you can build your shed. My next question to you is, what about a certified farm? I mean, Highlands Council normally does not regulate agricultural activity or activity on farms.
Yes, right.
You're right. You got the right.
No, there's no exemption per se for a farm structure. So, the right farm ordinance, it always is really an anti-nuisance ordinance. You have to understand. The right to farm ordinance doesn't necessarily give you zoning clearance. So they're going to be compatible. And the fact that you have a working farm, or might have a commercial farm that's designated as such, does not mean necessarily that you don't need a HAD.
Okay. What will the cost of the HAD letter be?
It's in our ordinance, there is an application and a modest escrow, Doctor. Just because our engineer, either the land use board engineer or the township engineer, I think is designated to do the review.
Because,
And let me just say the other thing too. I mean, if a property owner does not want to use the local ordinance and get just a local HAD, you can always go to DEP and get your HAD, and I don't know that there's even any application fee or escrow required for it, but it's really just a question of time.
right, but there is,
$350.
right. Because
$350.
think about this now. Anytime somebody wants to put a shed
Yeah.
in the preservation area, they have to get a $25 zoning permit and a $300 HAD letter.
Is that a permanent shed? Because a shed can be permanent, or it can be like a temporary, it's not.
It's not on a foundation, I'm not sure that we need to, you start splitting hairs, I understand.
Well, I'm asking this
Yes,
because all of a sudden, we're going to create an obstacle to any activity that is significantly higher than the one that exists now. And I say, well, this rule already existed, and perhaps it did, but it was not being enforced. So that, really now, your zoning permit now is really a $25 to the town and $300 more for any activity you want to do, just about. There's almost nothing that doesn't need a HAD letter. Is that, I mean, maybe I'm exaggerating there a bit, but it seems like we're at that stage now. Right?
The Highlands Preservation Area, it would always be applicable. The planning area, Doctor, as far as I'm concerned, and I discussed this with our county engineer, you have to understand the restrictions in the statute apply just to apply to the preservation area, which in this case is a fairly large part of the township. But, so, yes, I think unfortunately, regardless of whether we adopt this ordinance, technically speaking, for most activities, a HAD is required, and it's
Right, because,
a corollary to being in the preservation area.
yeah, so, I mean, it's all of a sudden a brand-new tax.
Now, we could adjust the ordinance if it becomes cost prohibitive. We could always reduce our fees or something like that.
And this will be enforced by the zoning officer? Is that how it's going to work?
Well, when you come in for an application, the zoning officer, probably prior to him issuing the zoning permit, a HAD permit should issue.
So he'll tell you...
He should give you the zoning permit, refer you
So
to...
the zoning officer will say, hey, you need a HAD letter for this because your property's in the preservation area.
He should.
All right, well, everybody should get ready to pay a lot more money. On a different subject, I think that having the Economic Commission have input into activities that are regulated by the Land Use Board is a good idea. And I would suggest then that perhaps the mayor could nominate a member of the Economic Commission to the Land Use Board and have a representative there.
There is, there currently is.
All right.
There's a language for that, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is any other public comment?
Judith Forbes. I have a question, and I'm going to preface it in the spirit of Mr. Becker's concerns when he was on the council. He was very concerned about salaries. And I know the chief financial officer isn't here today, but I've noticed that she's at the council meetings, most meetings, and mostly just sits here. So number one, I wanted to know, is she a regular here, and just tonight she's not here, or has things changed and she won't be here every meeting?
She tries to make it to one meeting a month.
Okay. Now, her salary covers a certain number of hours per month? Yes or no? How is she paid?
By salary.
So that she, the hours that she's sitting here are not required to do work other than to be sitting here, is what you're saying. So she's being paid to sit here, depending on how long the meeting is, how many hours or half hours she's being paid for. Because I very rarely heard anyone ask her a question.
So you're asking if it's in, I'm sorry, you're asking if it's included in her salary, the time she spends here, or does she get paid extra to sit here?
Not even extra, not extra, well, that's one question, I guess. But I don't understand, basically, given Mr. Becker's efforts, especially with the Land Use Board, to try to get their secretary on an hourly salary because he figured that when she may not have enough to do, she shouldn't be paid. And I don't really, as a resident, I don't feel that a CFO is needed to sit here, especially if she is in the office and you do have a question, you could reach out to her, and she could either come here or you could call her. So again, in the spirit of Mr. Becker, I am asking that you rethink her presence here for your meetings.
Okay. Okay, continue. You can,
Are you done?
Yes.
okay, do you have anything else, Judy?
Well, I don't know, maybe if you comment, I might have a question.
No.
From a discussion.
Okay, all right, then I'll have to ask, if I have more questions next time, I'll have to ask if I'm here.
All right. Just save it for your comments.
But I'm done.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to respond to you, though, with the CFO, that when she's working in the evenings, I've been here for many meetings where she has responded to questions that were specifically asked about the budget and so forth. So maybe you weren't at those meetings, and that's why you have the impression that she just sits there. I don't know, but I do know we have used her a lot.
I'm not allowed to talk.
No.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment on agenda items? Or general public comment? Whew. Okay, seeing none, we need a brief executive session for, I'd say about 15 minutes for contractual.
I move that we go
Action may or may not be taken.
executive session to discuss contractual.
Oh, okay.
So there's a motion, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Kaczynski.
Yes.
Black.
Yes.
Van Loop.
Yes.
Angeli.
Yes.
Kern.
Yes.
Right, but we only interviewed one so far. When's the other one?
He didn't reschedule. He would, I told him I'd call him back and see when his schedule allows, because I wanted to talk to you and see when you were.
Okay.
Okay, yep, you got it. Careful, I'm not putting any motions.
Yeah, that's not happening, Mary.
You and me going, right?
Yeah, or if you want to take the vote.
No, I'd rather go, no, he's not gonna be around.
Okay. You might have some more tickets to sit too, so maybe somebody gives me anything.
Is everybody here?
Yes, will we? Unless you want to take the girl. Whenever you want.
No.
We have a
You get first prize.
She went to her one game.
Close executive and return to the regular?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
All right, Kevin, can you?
Aye.
Okay, very quickly, we had a discussion in executive session with our police chief about his thinking of a potential internal promotion to a supervisory position, since we lost a supervisor in Lieutenant McBride. There was also some general discussion regarding the merits of a potential new hire to add an additional officer. At this time, no action is being taken. That's the summary of our executive session.
Excellent. That being said, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'll tell you what.
Yay.
Hey, chief,
Yes, you can stay here all minute.
I forgot to ask you something.
We gotta get